Hey everyone, welcome to the Real Estate Private Equity Academy. I'm your host, 𝗖𝗽 𝗖𝗽, and I'm joined always by the co-host, 𝗖𝗽 𝗖𝗽. We have another incredible show for you guys today, so if you can please do us a favor, like and subscribe our show, because it helps us kind of continue to build our channel and allows us to keep bringing you guys some great expert guest speakers like we have on our show today.
Yeah, the show is not monetized. We're not charging you a fee to be here today, but I know there's a lot of time that goes into finding the right guest, bringing him on the show and adding value to you guys. All we ask is please like, subscribe, and share, possibly make comments, all that great stuff. Awesome. So today we have
Robert Price.
Robert Price with us. Yeah, and I connected with Robert on LinkedIn, like I connect with most other people. I kind of go out looking for a great guest to bring on, but our conversation was not about him being a guest, but I really enjoyed what he's done and the great company he's created. And I'm like, hey, we got to get this guy on the show because I feel like this company is definitely a blue chip prospect, and it could change the whole way that real estate is being traded. Especially with us, your background as an agent for 10 years, myself being a real estate agent 16 years ago, I thought this would be a pretty cool topic to discuss with our guests.
Yeah, I can't wait to learn more about Bōde, the company that we're going to be discussing, but also about kind of Robert and how we built this company from the ground up. I think a lot of people are going to get golden nuggets from that as well.
Yeah, and then we'll do our 10 championship rounds so people can kind of see his perspective about those questions that we put everybody under the gun.
Under the gun. So get ready, Robert.
Okay, awesome. Perfect. Let's go ahead and do a quick bio and then get right into it.
Yeah, I love it. Awesome, guys. So Robert, a little bit about him. He's the founder and the CEO of Bōde. And what Bōde is it's an online real estate marketplace that launched in Alberta in 2019 and recently expanded to the Greater Vancouver. Nice. Bōde directly connects with buyers and sellers to work out a deal on their own time, their own schedule, and on their own terms, while saving the tens of thousands of dollars in commission fees. So this is going to be kind of cool.
Too bad for real estate agents.
Too bad for real estate agents.
All right.
Now, we believe this interview with Robert will bring great value to passive and active investors looking to think outside the box when selling or buying real estate. So thank you so much for being here, Robert.
Thanks for having me. Quite a honorable or a humbling intro. So very excited to be here and chat some more about tech and innovation and real estate in general.
Fantastic. Absolutely. Yeah, welcome to the show. We're here today to discuss your company, Bōde, the platform you have created to revolutionize real estate purchase and sales. But let's start off with you, if you don't mind. Please tell us about your background and your start in business.
Yeah, out of university, I went into a company called Axia. We built fiber optic networks. So that was a high-performing connection directly to customers, to government facilities, to businesses, and to other carriers. And so in Alberta, we built what's called the SuperNet. So it's a 17,000 kilometer fiber network. And then we took that same model and applied it to France, to Singapore, to Massachusetts, and really put together a disruptive approach to creating empowerment and choice for customers. So whereas the typical traditional telcos and cable cos would try to sell you a bundled package that we're all used to in our homes, we really unbundled that and said, forget the copper, forget the cable, go fiber and give people that high performing connection to what we call the global auction market, which is now what we know as the cloud. So this all sounds pretty obvious today, but back in 2005 or earlier, when we got this company going, that was quite a transformational way of thinking and quite a futuristic approach to believing that ultimately it's going to be the cloud and the global auction market of services that's going to change the world in that respect. So I spent all of my career there, actually post-university, planned to be there for 6 to 12 months on a short-term contract, really liked it. And then by the end was running the North American Services and Growth Organization, and we ultimately sold it in 2018 to Bell. So that was a great exit for our shareholders, and that allowed me to turn loose with some of the best Axia talent to build Bōde.
Amazing. And isn't that a consistent story that you hear a lot of entrepreneurs, like you look at Elon Musk selling, PayPal, and then going and then trying to solve a problem that exists out there. Same thing with, I believe, not Lyft, but Uber. The Uber's CEO was also exited a different company and started. Seems to be a consistent story. But talk to us about what was it like when I listened to the story of Uber CEO. They literally sat back and like, hey, what is a problem we could solve? There wasn't a certain asset class or certain they didn't have any certain focus that they wanted. It was just broadly speaking, what is a problem we can solve? What was it about real estate, particularly on the purchase and sale side, that interested you for you to then allocate so much time, resources, and dedicate your whole life to? I'm guessing when you started building Bōde, how did that come about? Why real estate?
Yeah, in my case, it was a personal experience. It was me buying and selling my last property in Calgary back in 2017. So still at Axia at this time. And I was looking for a really modern solution where I could control the process, and knowing that I'm going to do a lot of the work anyways. I'm going to look at pricing, I'm going to look at locations, I'm going to understand, I'm going to run my filters and essentially find exactly what I want on the buy side. And on the sell side, do similar work in terms of understand values, position it, staging it, doing all those things. I wanted to just have a modern way to control that experience, similar to what I would have if I'm booking a flight, or if I'm booking, a hotel, or even trading stocks. I wanted that experience in real estate because it's a big transaction. It's going to make a lot of sense for me to be smart about it. And what I found was that didn't at all exist. It literally was not an option. So I did what pretty much every Canadian does and hired an agent. And we went through this whole process on both the buy and sell side. And I felt like he was just in my way. He was we're playing telephone tag on his schedule versus the sell agent schedule. We're asking questions back and forth with 4 parties because there's 2 agents on both deals. And he's pushing paper. We get to a negotiation. I'm saying, literally say this exact thing because I know I've done the work on this and I want, you're my mouthpiece in this deal, so to speak. And then I wrote him a $50,000 check at the end. And I just felt like he just got in the way administratively, and I was doing all the intellectual work. So that was really August, back to your question, that's where it really came from for me, was the fact that that experience and the amount of money that I paid for it is totally crazy for where the world is today. That wouldn't be true 30 years ago when there was no internet and all this, all the inventory wasn't available and you didn't have the pricing and data and all these other tools available to you.
Right.
And you did need this human network. You did need these agents finding other buyers and doing the, analog things that they used to do. But the problem is, over that same period of time, home values, as you know, have gone up dramatically and commissions have stayed the same percentage wise. So agents are earning 3 to 4 times what they were earning 30 years ago, doing less work at the same time. And half the Canadian market is really not happy with that. So we estimate that there's at least 50% of Canadians who would prefer to sell with little or no advisory services. And so that was where the problem came from, my own experience, and then diving deeper into it, and ultimately said, this has a big chance to really change this industry, to make homes more affordable, and to empower buyers and sellers with the capacity to take this on with high-tech solutions that automate a whole bunch of the administrative side of it.
That's really cool, because keep in mind, like when I used to sell real estate back in the way, this is one of their largest transactions that they're going to be doing in their life, right? So they take it by the heart so personally, and it's their everything to them. And then to have to, 23,000 real estate agents to pick from here in British Columbia, to have to try to find the right one who they believe is going to hopefully have their back and relay exactly kind of how you said, hey, I know exactly what I want, and really put their heart and soul into it. It can be anxiety, ridden for them to kind of just hand over this huge task to somebody to kind of take over that way. So this is really, something that comes to home.
23,000 real estate agents, and they can pretty much choose from a pool of 1%, because there's 1% of realtors that do the majority of the transactions. So now it's there's definitely a bottleneck, and most of these guys are too busy to answer calls and what have you. But going back to a question that I asked and the answer you gave, but not only you're solving a problem, it was a problem that you personally faced So it was cool that you answered in that way. Awesome.
And realizing that a lot of people probably face that problem, right?
Absolutely,
So
and real estate is one of those basic needs of human beings. So you're going into a type of a business that's one of the human needs, but also most of real estate is that kind of the retail consumer, which is they're buying their either primary residence or selling. That's the majority of the real estate is taking place. So solving that problem within that space is huge. But allow me to quickly decipher from someone who's been in real estate for the last 16 years, decipher this idea of a broker. Are brokers needed in real estate transaction? Absolutely, I would say. But there are certain transactions that need the broker much more than the average person, average family selling their condo downtown Vancouver or selling a home in a suburb. That the attention and care you need for that is much less than for us, for example, buying a $50 million asset from a broker on an off-market deal. That broker has leverage against us because he's got deals that are off-market. Yeah. He's got a track record. We got to beg and plead, take him out for dinners to be on that list. Yes. That relationship is much greater than, hey, if you got a condo downtown where the prices are very obvious what there is, it's not that complicated. It's pretty much putting it on an MLS and hoping that it sells. Yeah. So that's going to be, just want to kind of decipher that for people listening of the need and importance of having a broker. In my opinion, and a lot of, I might get bad feedback from lots of real estate agents, but we
were also realtors ourselves, so we can totally relate.
So talk to us about
I really wanted to dive in really quickly to the kind of the system of Bōde, because how can somebody sign up to Bōde? What is it like for them, and how do they build confidence that they're going to be okay doing it on their own?
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe just touching on the previous point, people, it was a big part of the founding premise of this is that if people are empowered with the data and the tools and all the critical information, so they're not at an information disadvantage or a market disadvantage, they could be very successful. And what we found is our sellers actually sell for 1.3% more than an agent-based service because they're confident in their numbers. They're willing to be patient, wait for the right number.
Net of fees? Do they sell more net of fees?
That is just what they listed for versus what they ultimately sold for. That list to close ratio, 1.3% higher. And that's because at the end of the day, that last $30,000 or $40,000 to a home seller is a lot of money in equity, but to the agent, that's actually only hundreds of dollars of their tens of thousands of dollars of commission. So their incentive is to pressure you into accepting early offers. And if in our model, we of course don't do that. We just give you everything that you need, and then you're making the call. So I think that's really a critical aspect of this. Like we didn't start with the founding principle of we don't like agents or we have something against agents. We started with the fact that it's the industry that is broken in the sense of there's no real competition. As you say, 23,000 agents. How do they really differentiate themselves? Everybody has, their photos, they're on bus benches, they offer the same rates, they offer very similar brands. How do you actually even determine who to go with? It's become commoditized, and that's just emblematic of the lack of competition that's creating choice for customers, which is a big passion of ours. Not believing that agents are going away overnight with this business, instead saying it's better for the market, it's better for Canadians if they have a choice like Bōde, because that gives you an alternative to what was otherwise, this big ocean of agents.
Yeah.
But coming back to your question, so the way that it works is you can buy and sell. You can buy any property on our site that is on realtor.ca. So we are technically a brokerage. So we get all realtor listings across Western Canada, roughly 40,000 listings. As a buyer, and somebody just did this last night in Vancouver, actually on $1 million property, you can make an offer and purchase any realtor listing using the Bōde marketplace and save all of the buy side commissions. So where it's typically that 4%, 4 to 5%, depending on where you are in Canada, you're saving $20,000. Our buyer last night is saving $20,000 of commission by offering using our platform. And that's actually taking inspiration from a number of other countries around the world that don't have buy-side agents at all. Scandinavia, the UK, New Zealand, Australia, there's no buy-side agents. In Canada and the US, I know that's where you guys mostly operate, 2 agents on the vast majority, 95+% of deals. So instantly we're double in terms of commissions what a lot of the rest of the first world is. So that is really one of the things we're most excited about unlocking, is just a buyer being able to make offers on any property for free. And then on the sell side, you're able to list your property. We have a automated listing flow. So go through, talk about price or input price, descriptions. We'll upload and take professional photos and measurements for you and upload those right into your listing. And then you're able to go live in about 10 minutes. That's about the amount of time it takes. And then once you go live, we populate your listing also on realtor.ca and on Zillow and on thousands of other sites, in addition to digitally marketing to a very target audience for that specific property. So that our goal really is to invite the best of both worlds. Invite agents, you're allowed to, or as a seller, you decide what buy-side commission you offer, if any. And then we are also aggressively investing in finding self-represented buyers. And that's a big part of where our savings come from. We find 13 times the self-represented buyer than just the typical agent service, because they are, when you just take the agent proposition, they are putting on realtor.ca, the listing on realtor.ca, and inviting other buyer agents. And of course that benefits them because they want to be buy agents themselves. So that continues that two-sided agent experience. So we're really trying to find as many self-represented buyers. And then when you do, of course, that's free. So at the end, you pay us 1% upon sale. If you don't sell, no cost to you. We will eat that cost because we want to keep our incentives fully aligned with our customers.
Got it.
Okay,
So
cool.
when someone lists their property on Bōde, and let's say a Bōde subscriber comes in and sees that property and ends up being an in-house transaction, is the savings all consumed by the seller, or is the buyer also saving here?
Yeah, if it's a self-represented buyer, they're paying $0, and then the seller is only paying 1%. So versus the 4 to 5%, that's the big savings. So on average, it's 50%, because we do have agents also coming in and making offers also on platform. We've designed it so that agents can make online offers too. But what we found is we typically, when an agent is involved, the seller saves about 20% on the buy side commission as well, because they're offering a flat rate, or they're offering $1 and negotiating something, or full commission and negotiating something at the end. It's been interesting to watch that happen with sellers, where they are basically saying, you know, I'll offer full buy side commission, and now you've offered $450,000 on my 475 listing. I'll accept that offer if the buyer pays the buy side agent directly.
Right.
And it's been interesting to watch that, and that's, you know, kind of another topic, but that is the way it should work. It makes no sense that the seller is paying the buy side agent in any scenario. They have nothing to do with each other. It's the buyer and the buy agent. That should be the relationship. And in terms of the commercial aspect of it, they should pay them directly for the services they provide. And that change alone at the regulatory level would be helpful to Canadians in a variety of ways.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I remember when I was a real estate agent, sometimes, you know, we'd go to, there'd be a discounted brokerage. I worked for Remax, so we were like the highest cost, if you will. But so when we would go to a listing that was with a discounted brokerage, right away, we'd have to have that conversation with our buyers. Hey guys, you know, we'll have to negotiate the commission in and everything like that. So it seems like the tables are turning a little bit more like that, and buyers are willing to hopefully step in and start paying some of the commissions for the work that their real estate agent is doing for them. And that's cool. On the selling side on your platform, you can incentivize realtors to still come and work with you, and you just decide to negotiate from there.
Yeah, and you know, that's our goal, is to get our seller the best deal. So what we often see is a buy side agent is competing with a self-represented buyer, and but then our seller is able to say, okay, well, I know my total bill to this, when you include the cost of the commissions, is X versus it's free over here of Y. And often they go with the self-represented deal because there's no buy side costs in there when they're neck and neck in an offer situation. So that's just creating, to me, integrity in the marketplace. And you want to, at the end of, our goal is to drive more transparency and more integrity in these transactions and unlock what has basically been the agent lock on how this all works. It's saying empower the customers, let them choose if they want, what level of support they want. And then the agent has to compete for that service, as opposed to agents are doing everything and we as customers have to work around their lock on the way that this industry is manifested. So it's really a psychological change, and it's all about the customer at the end of the day. That's the golden rule. And when you have that in mind, as opposed to the incentive of keeping the industry the way it has been, which is where the agents are, then you end up in a good competition that adds value in the market.
Got it. Talking about agent lock and talking about monopolies that exist, let's talk about MLS. How do you guys plan to get around MLS, which is the #1 monopoly that agents hold both in Canada and the US?
Well, we actually use it. So because we're a brokerage, we do get access to MLS and we get all their listings. So we get all the data that the agents get, and we get our listings go on realtor.ca or MLS, and they provide. We are able to have all their listings on our site as well. So that's a big part of why we're a brokerage. You're right; it is a monopoly in that sense, but that kind of makes it make sense for us to be part of that on the inside of the industry with our membership in the community. So we pay our fees. We're regulated. We have audited trusts and all the things that a typical brokerage would have. The difference being at the regulatory level, we are not providing advisory services to clients. We are providing tools and data and contracts, everything they need to be successful. So that has a different regulatory status, but fundamentally, MLS is part of our value proposition.
Got it. Talking about data, CPI Capital has a weekly newsletter it sends out to our investor community, and is also my newsletter on LinkedIn, which has thousands of subscribers. But I know how much work goes into collecting data just to write my weekly newsletter about different topics. Talk to us about collecting this data. Talk to us about possibly your team internally that puts together data to make it very user-friendly for your buyers and sellers to come into your platform and utilize that data.
Yeah, and our organization was really put together with that in mind. So our chief revenue officer is a mathematician and an economist, and we have data scientists that work on this as well. The constitution of our company is very different than typical brokerage, where you have a broker and a bunch of salespeople, because of how different our model is, of course. So from a data perspective, we have 3 data tools: market data, sold data, and comparables. Market data is what's going on in your community. How do I compare community X versus community Y, sales trends, inventory, all of that. So it gives you kind of a broader perspective on how your community is working against other adjacent communities. Sold data is going back, in some cases, a decade plus of all the transactions that have happened on that particular address, the amount that they sold, the timestamp of when that happened. So you have that kind of background, and also some pictures or links to their address, so you got the full picture of what happened. And then comparables is a patent pending algorithm that we put together that gives you, through the algorithm, you put in some basic property information, and it will give you active and sold listings. They give you a percent, the top 5 of each. So what is the most comparable that's active in the market, and what is most comparable that has sold, with pricing and additional data behind it. So that is effectively automating what an agent does when you ask them to send comparables. We've automated that. And in fact, we believe it's better because we don't have any agenda in terms of what we send. It's just using the raw market information and providing that objectivity and giving you those pieces of information. So the three of those tools all work in concert to give you a multi-dimensional view of values, and our customers really like them. All available for free, and important for both the buyer and the seller, depending on where they're at, to get really smart about values. And often when we have a peer-to-peer transaction, no agents are involved at all. They are using the exact same information, which expedites the close of that transaction, because we're both just looking at the same information, as opposed to my agent told me this, my agent told me that, different comparable set. No, they're actually just using all the same information. So it kind of takes the emotion and the misinformation out of it, and just has the two focus on finding a number that works for them. And so anytime it's just our buyers and sellers dealing directly, those are the best deals we have. And often they become friends, which is really interesting, because where typically you never meet the person, right? In the old process, you never meet them. In our world, they're they're having dinner parties together afterwards.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'd be like, hey, come over for some dinner. Let's negotiate over, a nice, beautiful.
Bring
dinner.
out the wine. Bring out the wine.
Yeah, bring out the wine. Hey, I have a question for you, Robert. I was just thinking about this because fantastic for people wanting to buy or sell, right? How about people who are just constantly, like, for an example, I no longer have access to the MLS, right? My license has expired long ago, but still, in some cases, we have properties, we want to see what's going on in the market, like what's our properties worth right now. How about for people like us who aren't wanting to buy and sell right now, but we want to keep track on what's happening, and we maybe want to pull up some comparables, and instead of trying to call our realtor friends, maybe we can have access to your platform. Talk to us about that.
No, that's exactly right. So those tools I just walked through, those are available, real-time updated, available for free. So you sign up for
free.
You have to for free. So it's provide an email, because our regulations require us to gate it that way. But once you sign up for a free account, it's available to you at any time, for any purpose, at your convenience, forever. So that's a big part of one of the big things we're excited about. Exactly to your point, is how else, even when you're not in the transaction mentality, how else do you track the one of your biggest assets? In Canada, 70% of our net worth is tied up in our home, and yet we wait for what would typically be a tax assessment once a year, or pay $500 for an appraisal, which is expensive and inconvenient, or ask an agent to send you some stuff. But typically the agent is only really wanting to work with you when you're serious about buying and selling. So that's one of the roadmap things we're really excited about simplifying even more, is you should be treating your home like it's part of your portfolio from an asset perspective.
Yeah.
How often do you check your stocks when you have your public equity? Well, in my case, I'm looking every couple days, and those are all much smaller bets than the house that I own in terms of total financial impact. So we really want to empower people to have awesome real-time access at any point to understand the value of their home, which also allows them to make smarter decisions on when to sell, when to buy, what's going on. And so one of our most passionate pursuits.
I love that, because even recently with the interest rates rising, right? The market's going to affect how the market's going. So you can keep kind of track on what's happening with the prices and determine,
for sure,
everything going on there. That's really cool.
No, absolutely. So I had some more questions about the company itself, building a company and kind of growing it. But briefly, I keep making the comparison with Uber. What I think is a great comparison is this idea, this concept, we called it revolutionary, but it's such a great concept that others might have tried this in the past, or there might be other companies trying to present this this service. How does Bōde differentiate against those companies, or are you guys the first to offer such a service in Canada?
We're the first, as far as we know, globally, to offer this fully online high-tech experience to automate buy and sell transactions in the model we've described. The previous people that have looked at this have always kind of come from the agent first mentality. So what are the ways that we can innovate agents? And that is a very different mindset than actually if you have all of this functionality, this technology, the data, then you don't need the agent at all. So we have a totally different company composition because we are a tech company that is technically a brokerage, and other companies have very much always started with the mentality of you have to have an agent. And so we'll offer an agent for less money, or we'll try to have a call center, you know, the likes of a 𝗖𝗽𝗶𝘁. We'll kind of try to automate and streamline and create economies of scale with agents instead of them all being local. We can maybe get some aggregation there. Redfin does the same. But you end up with a compromised experience, in my opinion, because you still have all of the experiential flaws of you're still dealing with the person at every step of the process. You still have, what about scheduling? I've got to call into a call center to try to get a hold of somebody to ask a question. You know, how do I make sense of all of this? When an offer comes in, am I aware that I'm getting all offers? Have I got it right away? Think of all those different challenges. It creates huge inefficiency still. So it hasn't solved the efficiency problem. And they end up still having many buy-side agents coming to the table as well. Effectively, they are still getting the full buy-side commission going as they're paying that full buy-side rate. So you don't end up saving much in the end as a result. And you don't have a great experience. So it really was, and in your Uber example, it wasn't taxis that created Uber, right? It was a guy that came at it from a totally fresh perspective, no baggage in terms of what works and what doesn't work in the industry. It's a clean slate. And that's very much where I came at this from with the other founders who don't have real estate specific experience. You have tech experience, but we're able to come at it with a totally uninhibited view of what would really work and not get mired into or bogged down by, well, that, you know, if you're starting with that other agent-based mentality, then you keep getting stuck.
Great point.
All
Great
right.
point. Let's talk about growth.
Yeah.
So you started out again like Uber, starting in a small demographic. You started on in Alberta. You've now, are working in Vancouver, Greater Vancouver area. What are the plans with your growth? And is Bōde currently in the startup phase? Is it cash flowing? Where is it at in that kind of space as well? If you can talk about both the growth and what stage is that?
Yeah, the growth has been really exciting. So we grew by 400% last year, poised to more than do that again this year.
Is that geographically, or is that revenue or subscriber growth?
That's revenue.
Revenue.
And then we have recently launched in the interior of BC as well. So we now have about 80% of the British Columbian market. We're on the cusp of launching in Toronto. So that will be, or Ontario, and plan to be across all the significant Canadian markets in the next 2 years, and as well as look at American expansion. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun riding this wave of growth and seeing just how much customers love what we do. That's the number one thing that gets us out of bed in the morning, is having customers say, I knew it wasn't that complicated. I've been told it's that complicated for years, but me just going through this process and taking it on directly is so much easier than I've been told, and always what I've confirmed, or always what I believe to be true. So now we're at this point of financially speaking, we're trending towards profitability, which is really exciting. But our main goal is to really get national coverage and really start to earn significant market adoption in all the key markets.
And are you guys planning to go through an IPO, become publicly traded? Is that within your plans as well?
It's certainly an option for a company like this. I think it's a great public company because it's a challenge that people fundamentally understand. So we certainly have it as an option in the future. But not necessary, we don't think, to make the company really successful. So we'll evaluate that over the next 2 to 3 years.
Amazing.
Cool.
Amazing. All right, awesome. Let's get to
On
the next segment of our show. And if you guys want more information about Bōde, we're going to share it in the show notes, and we're also going to ask our friend how you can get in touch with him. But let's kind of get to the next segment of our show.
The 10 championship rounds to financial freedom. So go ahead, whatever comes top of mind. Here's the first question, Robert. Who was the most influential person in your life?
Wow. In the financial domain, I would say probably my dad. He's an entrepreneur himself, produced many successful businesses, built his whole career from scratch.
He was connected to Husky Mobile or some Goliath of a oil company. Some research was done.
Husky Energy. So he was the CEO of Husky Energy when he was 28. So was
is it the actual Husky, like the Husky gas station that we see, or that's different?
No, yeah, that's the same company.
Wow.
That's huge.
Yeah. So lots of great insights and a guy I can always go to on any topic.
Amazing, incredible. All right, Robert, what's the #1 book you recommend?
#1 book for financial resources.
No, it can't be for anything. All these questions.
Oh, for anything.
It can even be for personal growth.
Yeah,
anything.
whatever. It could be about a book that when that question was asked, I recommended *Sapiens*, which is about the human beings, kind of our evolution since start. So it can be any book.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be
book
financial.
on any topic.
In my case, I read so much during the day. I don't casually read that much, but I do love podcasts.
Yeah.
Ones like these. And I find that the Sam Harris podcast is a really awesome source of political, the way that your mind works, the way that you think about happiness and utility of your life and lifestyle, and global issues, geopolitical challenges. I think he's a brilliant guy and one resource I really like.
Awesome.
Okay.
You just got to let him know to take that challenge from Mehdi Hassan and take that debate challenge, which he's been hiding for years from doing. Let's go to the next question.
All right. If you had the opportunity to travel back in time, what advice would you give your younger self?
I would say, for me, to enjoy the moment. You're always, as an entrepreneur, you're always looking to the next milestone, to the next milestone, to the next milestone.
It's called the arrival fallacy.
The arrival fallacy.
Yeah. So enjoy, take the odd time to take a deep breath and really feel great about what you're doing and really enjoy what you're doing in the moment, and get some utility from that, get some brief satisfaction of the pursuit of what you're doing is big and challenging. But at the end of the day, life's short. So don't get too focused on the future. Enjoy the present.
Live in the moment. I love
Enjoy the journey.
Enjoy the journey. Yeah.
Destination will come. If you like it or not, it will come.
All right, Robert. What's the best investment you've ever made?
Well, it's going to be Bōde. Currently, it is Bōde already. So I was also a early investor in Cement. I don't know if you've heard of the company, one of the fastest growing companies in Canada. So advisor and investor there, and they are poised for IPO and have globally expanded. So very cool company and a great investment for me.
Awesome. Now, what's the worst investment you've ever made, and what lessons did you learn from it?
I haven't actually lost any money on any investments, which is definitely at least luck, a big part of luck. I would say my biggest, where I've only broke even for me, was, it always makes sense. I'm naturally a long-term guy. Look at the fundamentals, look at the long-term opportunity, and treat it that way. I made a couple short-term investments that I thought could make just a quick return, and ultimately they didn't. So I would say for me, it's keeping that long-term perspective.
Very cool. All right. Okay. That leads me to my next question. How much would you need in the bank to retire today? What's your number?
Oh, wow.
This is always
Uh, for me, I kind of think of it a little differently. I think once you've made enough money to cover your bills, and so be able to put food on the table and have power to your home and have, put clothes on your back and have the basic necessities covered. I've never thought that any additional money really changes my level of happiness.
Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I guess it goes back to that.
Yeah. So for me, I very much, it's about impact and about making the world a better place. And that will take different forms. That can take the form of Bōde, which is a for-profit company, but also nonprofit and other kind of community-centric businesses. So I don't have a number, but I don't really think of it that way anyways.
You look at it more of
Nice.
cash flow rather than net worth kind of idea, as long as that cash flow is there to allow you to then
get
do
the
other
bills
things.
paid.
Cool.
All right. I love this question. If you could have dinner with someone dead or alive, who would it be?
It would probably be Michael Jordan.
Cool.
Just because I think he's a fascinating guy, and he's been through so much in his life and in his career, and essentially changed sports forever, in a variety of ways. So I think it'd be interesting to BS with him about what happened, about his life, and get a sense of how he thinks.
Right on. All right. Okay, Robert, if you weren't doing what you're doing today, what would you be doing now?
What would I be doing now? That's
Sports or anything, like something that you always enjoy doing. What would it be?
I played Division I tennis in the US and at school. I knew I was never going to be good enough to go pro. You basically know that when you're 14, 15 years old, because basically you have to stop going to school and just dedicate your life to it at that age. But if I was, it's a big hypothetical, but if I was good enough, I'd enjoy being on tour for sure. That'd be a lot of fun to play the pro ranks.
Absolutely. Super cool. All right. Book smarts or street smarts?
I would say street smarts.
Okay.
My people that are close to me often say, how did you get to that? I read this whole book on this topic. It's 300-page book on what we just talked about, and you grasped it and you got to the same conclusion that I got to in a conversation, and in a 5-minute conversation. So I think I don't really know, can't really fully describe what that is. I guess it's just intuition, but the ability to make sense of complex issues and deal with things as they come at me, quick on my feet, I would say is probably my bigger strength.
Awesome. Last question. If you had $1 million cash and you had to make one investment today, what would it be?
And I'm going to emphasize on this question because it's a very particular question. So you got $1 million. Okay, it's cash. It's very liquid. Okay, you can make one investment, and you have to do it today.
You have to do it today.
What would it be? And the markets are closing pretty soon here too. So
I'd probably sink it into Bōde.
There you go.
Nice.
Yeah, grow your
Nice.
company and help lots of people, right?
Awesome.
There you go. I love it.
That's a man who believes in his company,
Absolutely.
man. Awesome, man.
Robert.
That was great, Robert. Really appreciate it. Thank you for coming on, sharing what Bōde is up to. And if you do go hyperbolic, this video will go hyperbolic, so we can't wait for that. Got you on here and discussed it. Yeah, we love the idea, like I said, and that initial meeting that we had on connection we had on LinkedIn, and the initial call that we had, I'm like, hey, this is something that I want to share with others. So we're really glad got you on here today.
And all great companies and businesses are built by solving a problem. So, I mean, this is just on another level. So really cool, Robert. If you could just let everybody know how they can reach you, that'd be great.
Yeah. So it's Bōde.ca is our website. But feel free to hit me up directly on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on there. And those are the two main ways. And yeah, absolutely enjoyed this conversation immensely. A lot of fun, and love to do it again sometime.
Absolutely. Awesome,
Thanks for being here
Robert.
today.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Cheers.